decided to knock them down and replace them by houses, which are still here. And some of the people who got the houses, they bought them very, very cheaply. They sold them in the open market and made a head of money on them. So it was a way of getting a lot of money legally, funny enough. We go left here. We have playing fields here, and we also have a running track here, so if anybody has neglected their bit of exercise in the morning, well, I'm sure they can get off and have a run there down the running track. This is for hurling and football, Irish football here, not soccer, those games. So there's our running track, and this is where the big apartment blocks were. There were 6 blocks of them here on our left, now all replaced. And at the top of this hill here, we go to our right. That road there on our right is named after Siobhan McKenna, a great Irish actor. And here on our right we have travellers, what's called travellers' houses. In my time they were called different names, but if you call them that now you'll be looked upon as a racist. So they're inside there. And these houses here on our left, they're all called granny flats. Now we go right here. And those 2 milk chugs are there as a link with the past. You see them there on the left. This tree here is a horse chestnut with what we call the candle flowers on it. They're in bloom now. First ones to bloom in the springtime, and the first ones to lose the leaves in the autumn. So you might say it's a very democratic system. Those people there sell old things. So if you want any old thing, like an old tongs or an old crane for the fire or pot hooks, well, that would be a very good spot to begin. They also sell things out very cheaply. Now this land here, I'm sure, will eventually all be built over. So we'll be stopping a little distance up here so that we can look down on our right on practically all of Galway City. And most of what you see down there has been built in the last 20 years. Before that, as we said, 12,000. Now goes on 100,000. So we're just pulling in here just after this road. And some of those fields that you see here on our left, they are left there as a link with the past. Now we stop. And again, if your eyesight is good enough, well, we can see practically all of Galway City from here. The most obvious thing down there is the one with the big green dome on it. That's the dome of Galway Cathedral. That was begun to be constructed in 1958 and finished in 1963. It was opened by Cardinal Cushing of Boston because a lot of Boston money went into its building. Kennedy has also contributed a hat of money to it. So it was only felt fair that a Boston man should open it. So that's why they asked Cardinal Cushing to come across and perform the opening ceremony. And by the way, his ancestors had fled Ireland during the famine, and they settled in Boston. So he was a good link with the past in many, many ways. And next to it, you can see the spire of another very old building, the oldest building in Galway City. Now we used to pass by it one time, but we cannot do it now because it's all pedestrianised. That's called the Collegiate Church of St. Nicholas of Milo, put there by the Normans in the early 1200s. And the building of it was contributed to by practically all of the very important 14 Norman families who established Galway City. So some of the altars inside of it are named the Lynch Altar. The oldest tomb in it belongs to a crusader. It's free to enter and very interesting building to go into. And by the way, it's right beside Cheek Holy's, someone asked me about it. So you can have a drink in Cheek Holy's and then go in and do your praying. And there's also flags there that belong to the Connacht Rangers. The Connacht Rangers saw service in India, they saw service in the Crimean War, and they also saw service in the First World War. So lots of names are down there, but the monument is inside in the church. And outside the church, on that side, you can see a window with skull and crossbones on it. You may wonder to yourself what the hell it's all about. Well, it was put there in 1264. Now it's on the original spot where the deed happened, but what gave it the name Lynch's window is that back then Galway did a lot of trade with Spain, and Fitzmaurice Lynch, who was Lord Mayor of Galway, used to visit Spain now and again, and he came back with a Spanish man who wanted to see a bit of Galway. Suppose he was from the rich class, and Lynch's son and him struck up a great friendship. But unfortunately for them, they both had eyes on the same lady, and Lynch's son got jealous of the Spaniard because he felt the Spaniard was the top man and he was down at the bottom. So he followed Gomez, the Spaniard, one night, and he stabbed him pretty close to there. And he was put on trial. He was found guilty of murder and sentenced to be hanged. And back then there was an official hangman, but if the official hangman declined to do the job, the Lord Mayor would have to do it. So everyone thought when the hangman declined to hang Lynch's son, who was very popular, that Lynch would find some way or another of getting rid of sending him off abroad or something. But instead, no, Lynch decided that the law was the law, and if the man was found guilty of murder and sentenced to be hanged, it was his job to hang him. So he hanged his own son. And hence we have the name Lynch's window. Well, the window is there, but the building where it was is long since gone. And of course, Galway jail was where the cathedral is now. And that was all demolished and pulled down. It was sold to the Catholic Church for the princely sum of £2. The cathedral itself is free to enter. So the confession box is up to the right of the main entrance. So if you have any major sins to confess, well, maybe I could be persuaded to hear them. You never know. And of course the most important, the bishop who was there, you might have heard tell him. Did you ever hear tell of a man called Bishop Casey? No? He was the man who was the bishop there. We all adored him. Poor gentleman. Was into everything. Chief man when they welcomed the Pope to Ballybrit when he came here. And his right-hand man when he was in Ireland was Bishop Casey. And then one morning we heard the story that Bishop Casey had fled the country because it had been discovered that he had a lady friend, an American, and he had a son aged 17. So he went across to South America. The man links Galway and Mayo, and the River Corrib, which we saw flowing through Galway city, that drains it. It's a great spot for salmon and trout fishing. I don't fish, I wouldn't have the patience. But people who do maintain that if you have spent an hour or two on Loch Corrib and caught neither a salmon nor a trout, they maintain your fishing technique must be a bad one. I think what they're trying to say in a polite kind of a way is that you are rather hopeless at the job. And this is the primary school here on our left. Now all packed with cars. When I went to the primary school, the teacher didn't have a car. There was no assistance of any description. There were 2 teachers in the school. It was heated by an open fire, so on very cold days we'd be brought up in groups of 12, put round the fire car, then we'd have to go and replaced by others. So now it's completely changed. Schools now are like hotels. And practically every child in the school now has their own computer. And this is how they do their work and all that. We go right here. Now sometimes I think it's a good thing, sometimes I think it's a bad thing. Because there's very little contact now with humanity. Whereas once upon a time, if we gave a project in history, local history, the children would, even in the national school, they'd go out and ask the neighbours who lived here, who lived there. And in that way, lots of maps were put together of what that place was like, say, in their grandfather's time. That's all gone now. Give that same project now and you'll get something from Google books. That's it. So this is more or less the countryside out here. Again, there used to be a big hotel here. You were here last, now it's demolished. We have apartment blocks, seems to be the in thing, coming up along. This is all university land here on our left hand side. This used to be a monk house here one time, the Franciscans, now closed down, so it's completely changed. Another one a little further on, and this is the new supermarket which opened here. By the way, also we have Tesco's here, should you feel a bit homesick. All university land here. The university buys anything and everything that goes for sale on the left hand side. If you had a house on the right hand side and wanted to sell it, you'd love to move it across to the left, because of the interest of the university it would go thousands of euro more there. These are all student accommodation blocks which you see down there. When I was a young lad, the university would be lucky if they had 200 students. Nowadays they expect something in the region of 20,000. So everybody now goes off to the university, whereas at my time you went off to work. And we have a great shortage of tradesmen in this country. This is a nursing home here, filled with cars from Monday to Friday. And when Friday evening comes, well, all the cars are all gone, because miraculously it seems all the people there are being cured. And they go home for the weekend, then the following Monday they're all back again. So this is still all university land here on our left. The university has nothing on the right. We go straight on here. And this is the student gym, which you see there across